Alright guys, just wanted to share my thoughts on which 4 stars are incredibly valuable and are definitely worth building as soon as you pick them up. The sweet thing about 4 stars in WutheringWaves is that they are much closer to 5 stars in terms of value than many other gacha games I have seen. Some 4 stars are even on par or better than some 5 stars, which is bizarre to even think about. Some players may think this is bad, but I personally find it great so players just have much more choice and it makes the game much more free to play friendly. Just a note before I proceed, don't feel forced into building these characters as you can play whoever you want. I just think these 4 stars are great since they are multifunctional and will hold great value over quite a long time. Okay, I'm gonna kick this off with the Crimson Dual Wielder Danjin. Danjin is a main DPS character and is the embodiment of a glass cannon. Danjin's specialty lies within her resonance skill, which allows her to sacrifice her HP to amplify her damage. So Danjin is quite literally at death's door at most times, but will be able to inflict a ton of damage onto enemies. Another cool aspect about her skill. You know how characters usually have this thing called cooldowns on their abilities? Yeah, Danjin doesn't have a cooldown on her skill. You are able to spam her skill, but at the cost of losing 3% of your max HP after each activation, which stops when you have 1% left. However, thanks to her Forte circuit, her heavy attacks will be enhanced to deal greater damage along with healing herself by a considerable amount. So Danjin is able to rely on herself for heals and deals an insane amount of damage. She is a very high risk and very high reward character that will allow you to destroy bosses and in a way will help you to learn the core mechanics of the game such as parrying and dodging a lot sooner. It is a bit more of an extreme approach to learning these mechanics, so if you aren't looking to go down that route, I would suggest to give Danjin a try when you have learned the mechanics using safer characters. Danjin's ult is her unleashing a barrage of attacks with her swords which deals a good amount of havoc damage, but her go-to will be her skill and the heavy attack. Danjin is a very powerful and independent DPS as her passive skills are able to boost her DPS through various ways. Danjin is able to boost her heavy attack damage by 30% through her skill, along with marking enemies that will take 20% extra damage from her. Danjin rivals 5 stars when it comes to DPS and is even capable of being a sub DPS due to her outro skill, which will increase havoc damage by 30% for 14 seconds. Currently there is only one other havoc unit in the game, being Taochi, which I believe has good synergy with Danjin. Taochi is a good DPS / support character that scales on defense. She can deal great burst damage and provides a couple of gigantic shields for the team when she uses the skill. Danjin's outro skill would be great for her to deal even more burst damage, and Taochi's outro skill increases resonant skill damage by 38% for 14 seconds. So as I said, Danjin's bread and butter would be her resonance skill, so these two would be a duo worth trying. Danjin's outro skill is incredibly valuable for any Havoc unit in the future. So even if you don't want to use her as the main DPS anymore, you can use her as a sub DPS for the outro skill. Danjin should be featured on the first 5-star banner, being Jiyan's, if nothing does change. So I would definitely recommend throwing some summons in if you aren't going in for Jiyan to see if you can snipe Danjin from the banner. If you are planning to pull for Jiyan, chances are that you will be able to pull Danjin and potentially a few duplicates. Alright, next up is Baizhi. Along with having a beautiful character design, she is the only other healer in the game apart from Verena. So I'm sure you guys know where I'm going with this. If you don't pick up Verena from the beginner banner, you would pretty much be relying on Baizhi till you pull Verena. Fortunately enough, Baizhi is a free character we can pick up by progressing through the story, so everyone can obtain her. Baizhi is a ranged Glacier character that deals Glacier damage with her basic attack, and she will be able to heal through her resonant skill and her ultimate. Similar to Verena, Baizhi literally throws up heals. Her intro skill deals glacier damage to enemies and heals all characters in the team, as well as the outro skill which heals the team every 3 seconds for 30 seconds scaling on Baizhi's max HP. Now again, very similar to Verena, Baizhi is more than just a healer as she additionally provides buffs to the team. The outro skill heals the team along with increasing damage by 15% for 6 seconds. It isn't as great as Verena's outro skill providing 15% increased damage since hers lasts for 30 seconds, but something is better than nothing. Additionally, one of her passive skills can provide 15% increased attack for 20 seconds when your DPS character picks up Euphonia off the field from Baizhi's skill. You'll have to work a bit more for this buff since it isn't automatically applied, but the buff itself is still very valuable for your DPS. To top it all off, Baizhi's Forte circuit allows her to restore Concerto energy to allow her to ult sooner, as well as provide even more healing to the team through her heavy attacks. Considering that this is the only character that tries to replicate what Verena does, she seems like a must build since I am sure a lot of players will need some extra support at the start of the game to learn the core mechanics. We aren't all going to be perfectly dodging and parrying to begin with, so someone like Baizhi is going to be extremely valuable at any point in the game really. That is until you do pull a stronger support / healer, basically only being Verena for now. Ugh, if they only switched their kits. Now moving on to Sanhua, a Glacier sword-wielding DPS character with amazing animations, character design, and a unique kit to go along with it. Sanhua is another free character we can obtain through the login event. It's just 5 days and we are given a character of this caliber. Sanhua's specialty lies within her heavy attack, as when you hold the button down, there will be a quick time event bar just above the HP bar. If you are able to release the button in the frostbite area, which is just a small section on the quick time event bar, Sanhua will deal enhanced heavy attack damage. However, if you do miss it, you will just deal the standard heavy attack. Fortunately, there's a few ways in Sanhua's kit that can make it easier for you to land the quick time event. Expanding the frostbite area would be achievable through obtaining a layer of clarity. You can obtain one layer of clarity which lasts for 5 seconds through completing her basic attack string, her resonance skill and her intro skill. You are able to gain 2 layers of clarity, literally meaning the quick time event is now even larger through the use of her ultimate. Sanhua is also capable of leaving ice prisms and glaciers on the field through her skill, intro skill and the ultimate, leaving the largest one lasting for roughly 5 seconds. If enemies are near those glaciers on the field and Sanhua deals an enhanced heavy attack, he will detonate them, causing extra glacial damage to enemies. Sanhua is also able to buff her own damage through various ways within her kit. Her intro skill provides 20% extra damage to her resonance skill, and after completing the basic attack string, the ice glaciers that burst will deal 20% extra damage. So to simplify her kit, you want to try to drop as many glaciers as you can on the field and deal enhanced heavy attacks to explode them to deal even more glacial damage. Sanhua's very unique kit does take a bit of skill in trying to keep an eye on the quick time event and enemies you are facing, so I understand if it's a bit frightening for some players. Also, there will be instances where enemies may move away from the ice glacier Sanhua does leave on the field. But the amount of glacial damage she is capable of dealing in such a short time frame makes it worth it once you have her combos locked down. Now, very similar to Danjin, Sanhua's outro skill does increase glacial damage by 30% for 14 seconds. So along with being a main DPS, she has the capability of being a sub DPS, as she would be able to buff any glacial character's damage, such as Yangyang. I know quite a lot of you are looking to pick up Yangyang from the beginner banner, so having Sanhua on the team would benefit him greatly with her outro skill. Overall, Sanhua can provide high amounts of DPS within a short time, along with functioning in the role of a sub DPS, making her incredibly valuable for a free character. The final character would be Mortefi, a ranged fusion pistol character that is great as a DPS and is amazing as a sub DPS. Mortefi being a pistol character kinda allows players to have a bit more safety when engaging enemies since you have more distance between you. However, some bosses are insanely quick, so don't think you'll always be at a safe distance when using him. As a DPS character, you would want to spam his basic attacks and resonance skill to max his Forte circuit gauge, which then allows him to cast Draconic Hellfire. Draconic Hellfire being a massive AoE fusion blast dealt to enemies. Now for his sub DPS capabilities. Starting with his ultimate, it causes fusion damage and adds Burning Rhapsody to all characters in the team for 15 seconds. You can see Burning Rhapsody as more like a follow-up attack dealt by Mortefi's dragon whenever an ally deals a basic attack or a heavy attack. Basic attacks would land 1 follow-up attack per hit, and heavy attacks land 2 follow-up attacks per hit. So you can only imagine the amount of damage your main DPS that deals heavy attacks can deal with Burning Rhapsody. One of Mortefi's passive skills also increases the damage multiplier of his Burning Rhapsody after each hit from an ally by 1.5%, which can stack up to 75%. It doesn't stop there. Mortefi's outro skill can also increase heavy attack damage by 38%. So characters like Sanhua and Jiyan are going to love having Mortefi as an ally. As a reminder, Jiyan's ultimate would be considered as heavy attack damage, so having Mortefi as a sub DPS with him would really amp his damage. Mortefi is another unit along with Danjin that is featured on Jiyan's banner. So if you are planning to pull for Jiyan, you will be in luck since you are likely going to pick up Jiyan's best partner with him. That's if the banner remains the same, of course. Mortefi really shines in the sub DPS slot, so even if you wouldn't want to use him as a main DPS anymore, he would benefit any character that loves to deal heavy attacks, which really shows his value. That kinda wraps it up for the 4 stars I believe are really valuable and are definitely worth building. Of course, an honourable mention to some characters such as Yangyang that can provide great crowd control, Rover can slow down time with the outro skill which is insanely unique, and Tauchi, which I really wanted to add to the list. However, one of the main aspects in Tauchi's kit is her parry, and she takes damage within her parry stance, which I'm not a fan of. I do hope they actually think about improving her parry because she's got some great reasons to play with her. Overall, Danjin, Baizhi, Sanhua and Mortefi are characters that I believe you would benefit in many ways in building. 2 of them being completely free, and the other 2, if you are lucky, you could pull on day 1. Again, feel free to play and build whichever character you like, since the great thing about WutheringWaves is that pretty much every character is unique in their own way and can provide something to your account. It goes without saying, if these characters are nerfed on launch, it may affect their value. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, would really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel and drop a like for more WutheringWaves content. Also, would love to know some of the 4 stars you guys are looking forward to playing with, so comment down below. And yeah, hope to catch you guys later.